So I was just realizing the other day how we just went through an entire U.S. election season, from the primaries to the general election, and barely managed to talk about Elizabeth Warren and her proposal for an ultra-millionaire tax. And while Elizabeth Warren didn't win the primary, nor the presidency, nor the spot as Treasury Secretary, I believe that her proposal to tax so-called ultra-millionaires isn't going anywhere. And it's not only a matter of if it's enacted, but when. So with that said, I'm going to share with you the main tenets of her proposal. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where you're treated best. That means moving your business, moving your family overseas to avoid politicians like Elizabeth Warren having their hand in your back pocket, having second passports as a plan B to make that more readily possible, and making investments overseas to keep assets in different jurisdictions. All legally. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And so Elizabeth Warren, the darling of the left in the United States, has rolled out during her run for the presidency and has updated, it seems, since, an ultra-millionaire tax. What are the main tenets of this tax? Well, the first thing is she wants to impose a wealth tax. And my response to that is that she wants to effectively do something that has failed in Europe. If you go and look at the history of modern Europe, a number of countries had wealth taxes. Now it's down to, I believe, 3. And so for all the talk from Elizabeth Warren and her friend Bernie, who say, we're the only developed country where we're not taxed. The United States would be one of the only developed countries in the world that imposes a wealth tax after all the other developed countries realized this is just a bad way to run our country. And they have retreated from that in Western Europe. So the wealth tax would look like this. It would start at $50 million. And so if you have less than $50 million, then I guess you are, at least for now, safe. She wanted a 1% annual wealth tax on $50 million. So if you have $50 million bucks, let's just say it's sitting in the bank. Obviously it's not, but it's sitting in the bank, easy to value, 1% tax, send the $500,000. I'm sure she'll be happy to put some infrastructure in place just to make it so they just suck the money right out. You don't even have to do anything. Now, if you get up to the billion-dollar level, big jump there, but if you get up to the billion-dollar level, then the original proposal was a 3% annual wealth tax. So you've got $1 billion sitting in a nice little pile. Every year, they're going to take $30 million of that. But as I was reading the proposal on her own website, they had it crossed out like a strike through the whole sentence with 3%. And then they said, Elizabeth has subsequently decided to update the wealth tax proposal for billionaires to 6%. Because, why not, right? Just, once we've already gotten started. And that's actually the point. It's so scary hearing about a wealth tax. Again, something that's failed. Something that has been abandoned by countries in Europe, which you would hardly call libertarian, bastions of economic freedom. They have realized this doesn't work. And the mere fact that it's being proposed in a country like the United States, and I'm hearing, whispers of it in Canada as well, it speaks to the fact of what I always talk about. It speaks to the culture. Europe got over it. Oh, some people are wealthy? All right, fine. They're paying income taxes, whatever. In the United States, in the English-speaking countries, there is such a cultural hatred now for the millionaires and billionaires that they have no choice on the left but to come after you. Now, this is not a Republicans versus Democrats issue. I don't live in the U.S. I really have no ties to the U.S. This does not affect me, so I'm not personally upset about it. But it does concern me about the direction the country's going. And I think it should concern you because, it's the camel's nose under the tent. Once they say $50 million and 1%, before you know it, it's 20, and then it's 10. And eventually, it becomes like the alternative minimum tax, when how many millions of people were ensnared into that? Oh, then it becomes like the income tax, which started at 3%. Let's pay off some debts. Wasn't it from the war? Our income tax is still 3%. Now, Are you going to have a 40% annual wealth tax? Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But certainly, you could bring more people into the tent of a wealth tax and the rates could go up, because the cultural issue is the politicians and the people support it. Movement of the country is going in that direction. We talked about how the state of Arizona, one of the most reliably red states for as long as I can remember, the people of Arizona voted to impose a tax not only on millionaires, but on people making as little as $250,000 a year. They almost doubled their state tax, making the state tax on so-called high earners an unbearable almost 8%. I mean, one of the highest state taxes in the United States. Even as more states are raising their taxes with new millionaire taxes, Arizona, a reliably low-tax red state, raising their taxes. So if people even there are willing to say, you know what, we have to pay for our education system, for the children, of course. It's always for the children. I remember living in Arizona when they passed a remarkable $1 per pack tax on cigarettes. I don't smoke, so it didn't affect me, but I realized how insane and harmful it was that whenever they say for the children, people, including the smokers, would vote, sure, please take away more of my money for the children. It will be just as easy for the next Elizabeth Warren, or even for Elizabeth Warren's influence on the incoming Biden administration, future Harris administration, whomever may be in charge, to say, let's have this wealth tax. On top of that, other tenant, stronger FATCA. While many politicians are saying, let's get rid of the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, or let's at least reduce it to where Americans who live overseas, who have a bank account to pay their mortgage in the country they live and send their children to school, should be exempt. At least we should do that. Elizabeth Warren's saying, nope, let's strengthen it. Let's make it even harder. You're an American overseas, or you're just a person who wants to have a plan B. You like the idea of keeping $1 million in Singapore just to have a little bit of asset protection, just to have some safety. Because I know personally, when I paid my taxes in these 6 months I lived in California, they forgot. They lost my check after they cashed it. They lost their records. And then they came in and dipped into my bank account in a bank that wasn't even in California. And they just took the money a second time. And do you know how difficult it was for me to get that money back that they double dipped from me? So let's just impose more stringent regulations and take more people's money. Oh, and by the way, the third tenet of her proposal, 40% exit tax if you leave the country and have more than $50 million. She wants to make it so if you ever decide the taxes in the U.S., the stronger FATCA regulations, just being able to keep some money that you fully report, by the way. We're not talking about hiding. Remember, I'm the goody two-shoes of the offshore business, they call me, right? Legally reported money overseas, doing nothing bad. She wants to make that harder. She wants to make taxes harder. She wants to impose wealth taxes. I presume, just like every other tax in the United States, it would be applied to citizens worldwide. So even if you don't spend a single day in the U.S., your assets will be subject to wealth tax. Now she wants to say, if you get sick of all of that and you have too much money, even if that money wasn't earned in the United States, even if you went to Switzerland or Singapore and you built a business and now it's worth $50 million, if you renounce, we're taking 40%. Not just capital gains, which they'd also like to raise, but we're taking a punitive tax rate of 40%. And here's the thing. If the right person gets in power, this will be so easy. You know, for years, Americans have been telling me, one day we're going to get rid of citizenship-based taxation, and Americans will be able to be like every other developed country and live overseas and just pay tax where they live. And if that's Dubai, they pay nothing. And if it's France, they pay a hell of a lot. And I've been saying no. The U.S. culture is people are isolated. They don't understand how the rest of the systems work. The reason that politicians like Bernie Sanders have to tell them that they're the only ones without socialized medicine is that I think most people don't know. They just know what they know. And that's true of people in many countries, in all fairness. I'm not trying to pick on people in the United States. But this could pass so easily with the right people in power because people are so fed up right now with the millionaires and billionaires who have created value. Their stocks have gone up. People don't think how many pension funds, how many individual investors, how many retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs have stock in the same companies that have made Jeff Bezos wealthier than ever. They don't consider the fact that Bill Gates has paid, by his account, more than $10 billion in taxes in his lifetime and has given away tens of billions, if not at this point over $100 billion to charities and to his own foundation that does things. Whether you like Bill Gates or not, I think Bill Gates has paid enough, but not enough for Elizabeth Warren. your roads are crumbling because she couldn't spend Bill Gates' $10 billion effectively. She wasted it. She squandered it. It was flushed down the drain on stupid crap. And so just as Willie Sutton robbed banks because that's where the money is, Elizabeth Warren is now going to the people who have the money and saying, you're the ones who need to pay up. What's fascinating to me about the United States is I travel all around the world, especially in Europe. I've seen, how in Europe, most people who are, working are paying some tax, and it's not exactly low. I remember being in Belgium and talking to people and hearing just how much tax they pay for a relatively entry-level professional job. If you have a pretty entry-level job in the United States, you're probably not paying much in federal tax. In fact, you may be getting a rebate. And so it's a very interesting system in the US in particular where a lot of people pay nothing and yet allow politicians to point the finger at people who are paying billions of dollars. Now again, Elizabeth Warren will not be relevant any longer other than being one senator. But certainly people have glommed onto her ideas. The idea of a wealth tax is now out. If you would have said that 20 years ago in the United States, you would have been laughed out of the room. But now it's serious. Now it's on the table. And the fact that some people who are building businesses are getting wealthier, the mere fact of that is used as a headline by these people. Jeff Bezos added $50 billion to his wealth this year. Okay, good. But no, they don't even need to say why that's bad anymore because so many people eat that up as, well, that can't be allowed to happen. Nobody should be getting rich on our dime around here in the United States. And so to me, it's another reason why I want to have a second passport to where if things get really bad, yeah, maybe I'll be subject to that exit tax. And hopefully I'll have it early enough, that passport, to where if I want to divorce my country, I can do so before the 40% tax rate. I can do so before the wealth tax. I don't want to wait until they're drafting the wealth tax bill in Congress to then be scrambling and running around. I can do it more cheaply, more nicely, a little bit more slowly and orderly if I work on getting my second passport now, if I work on having a place where I can live overseas now. This is why, just another proposal against the ultra-millionaires, which will eventually be shrunk down to just regular old millionaires, why I think having diversification, having a place to go is important. There are lots of countries, even in socialist European countries, where they've said this stuff doesn't work. If those countries have said it doesn't work, believe me, you can find plenty of places to go and avoid this kind of Elizabeth Warren chaos. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.